Hi Marc, great to meet up with you again on Tuesday and do some further work on your game. The three swings here pretty much illustrate the changes that we were trying to implement during this part of the session. First part of the session related to the overall geometry of the swing and the effects that the right knee were having on the way the whole swing functioned during the downswing. You were talking about maybe sort of trying to hit a push draw with quite a few cut pattern pieces in there. One of my main concerns is that because of the amount of down lag you create, which is a benefit for you, create some good power, low point control, etc., it does make getting the hands or getting the club in enough at P6 difficult. And what we've got here is the right knee adding far too much flex, the pelvis flexing forward a little bit too early. As a result, the shaft of the club hitting the right shoulder, then between the forearms, climbing on to that left arm at P5.6. Before then, very much out in front of the hands at 6. And then at 7, you can see very much a sort of cut pattern impact position, where the alignments are shoulders a little bit too open, hips very open, and right knee flexing in too much. So what we discussed was the feeling from the top that accumulator 4, so that this is the key thought, if you will, pre-shot, is that accumulator 4 works straight down towards the toe line without adding flex to the right knee. So the feeling that we're trying to create here during the drill, swing to P4 and stop, butter the club straight down without adding any flex to the right knee. And when we do that, you can see that the shaft gets more underplane, dropping below the right arm rather than being through the left arm. We'll also notice that the left arm is angled in much more when the hands are at hip height, so we're not rotating through quite as hard, if you will. There's that rotation that produces an outward pulling force that gets the club out in front of you and releasing a little bit too much to the left. Then when we're hitting shots, we noticed that the club was lining up better and the body was lining up better, but the final piece was using this push spectrum here, trying to sort of go through the scale of pushes, hit a big push, hit a medium push, hit a little push. This shot here was hit trying to hit a big push. And if you watch the effects that this has, allied to better movement of accumulator 4 and more controlling of the right knee as we change direction, what we also see is a shaft that starts to shallow out much more as it's coming into the hit. We've got the arms angled in much more at 5.6. We've got the right knee flexing less, and we've got the club in a much more appropriate position to get that draw pattern going than what we saw at the start of your session. With driver, because of that move, what we tend to see is a very, very quick extension through the hit, and that's in there predominantly because we're trying to stop the club swiping across the ball so much in the through swing. That's something that we discussed and that you're just going to have to let the dust settle on for a little while. It was starting to look tidier towards the end of your session, but ultimately we'd want more of this move, much better alignments at 7, hitting out at the ball for longer, and as per the images I sent across, still a little bit of residual stuff in there with the next flexing forward, a little bit too much through the hit. But if we look at the effects that's had on the overall look at the exit position, less gap between the knees, right heel banking in more, hitting out at it for longer, A little bit more closure on the club face, not a bad thing. Neck tilts are much better. So a much tidier position through the ball by controlling what the right knee's doing and controlling accumulator 4. And then to put it all together, just hitting that little push spectrum, learning to hit the varying degrees of push to give you feels and learn to control where the sweet spot is coming into the ball from. Great comparison there with the two sort of exit positions. Really like that one on the right. The one on the left will work, just don't try and hit a draw from it. Good luck with it, and I will post another recap relating to the work we did on improving your launch with driver. Well done.